Market smelled of burnt oil, stale spice, and desperation. Roar moved through the crowded lanes with quiet, measured steps. He didn't look like much, patchy brown coat, worn boots, a week of stubble on his chin, but he carried himself like a man who'd seen too many suns rise over broken places. His hands were calloused from ship work, his shoulders tired from hauling scrap and debt. He wasn't here for drama. Just a converter coil for his shuttle, maybe a few insulated cables if the price was right. Yet, as he passed the south lane of the bazaar, something halted him. It wasn't a noise. Quite the opposite. In a space where voices clashed and machines screamed, he found silence. A strange kind of void beside a trash bin where even the vermin didn't bother to linger. She lay curled against the grime-slick wall, knees pulled to chest, skin dark with filth so thick he couldn't tell what color she truly was. Her hair was a matted nest of tangles, and her thin frame shuddered with shallow breaths. No one looked at her. Not even to mock. The passers-by simply moved around her like she was a cracked pipe or broken vendor tech. "Disgusting creature," muttered a Vor merchant, stepping over her with a curled lip. "You'll catch plague just breathing near that thing," said another. "Not worth a single cred," spat a traitor. Roar stopped. Something inside him paused, like a lock clicking open, like an engine stuttering back to life. He took a hesitant step closer. "Take a breath, human," a vendor hissed. "She'll die before nightfall." But he didn't listen. Kneeling slowly, he reached into his coat and uncapped his flask. Warm water sloshed gently within. With one hand, he raised it to her lips and tipped just a drop. Her cracked lips twitched. That was enough. "Hey," he whispered. "Can you hear me?" No answer. He slid his arms beneath her. Her body was frighteningly light. Like air and bone. People scoffed, muttered, laughed. "You'll regret that," a traitor called. "She's nothing but dead weight." But Roar only adjusted his grip and stood. "Not today," he said. Roar's shelter sat on the city's edge, half embedded into a hillside, part shipwreck, part salvaged structure. It wasn't much, a heater that hummed when it felt like it, one cot, a basin, and a window that refused to close properly. But it was safe. Quiet. He laid her gently near the heater on a padded mat, careful not to wake her. Not that she seemed capable. Her breathing was shallow, her limbs limp. He brought a bowl of warm water and a clean cloth. Then he knelt, dipped the cloth, and began to clean. He started with her face. Under the grime was purple skin, glowing faintly beneath layers of dirt. He wiped gently, murmuring soft reassurances though she was unconscious. Her face twitched. Her brows furrowed. Her hand jerked once. Weakly. Defensively. "It's okay," Roar said, voice low. "You're safe now. I won't hurt you." Her lips parted. No words, only a tiny breath. A question or a prayer. He continued, hour after hour, washing away years of filth. Her arms were thin as cables, her shoulders marked with faded bruises. Her legs bore scars in crooked lines, signs of chains or worse. Still, he did not stop. He cleaned her with the gentleness of a man tending to sacred things. Slowly, she became someone again. Not a heap of trash, not a forgotten slave. A girl. Her eyes opened once. Just briefly. Brown. Deep. Afraid. "Don't talk," he whispered, noticing her lips trying to move. "Rest." A single tear rolled down her cheek. And then she slept. Not from pain. Not from collapse. But from peace. Roar covered her with the softest blanket he owned. Then he sat beside her and watched the slow rise and fall of her chest. "Who left you like this?" he murmured. She woke to soft rain tapping against the window. Her breath caught in her throat. No chains. No barking orders. No darkness. A blanket covered her. She felt warmth on her skin. She sat up slowly. Her muscles ached. Her limbs trembled. Then came footsteps. Her heart surged. She pressed her back against the wall. Roar entered with a towel and a bottle of warmed water. "You're awake," he said softly. He made no sudden moves. His expression was gentle. She didn't speak. He set the towel down on a small stool. Maybe today, he said, nodding to the doorway, you'd like to try something new. Steam wafted from the open bathroom. Just water. No tricks. She didn't move. Want help? She stared. He waited. Finally, she gave the faintest nod. He stepped closer, slowly. When he reached out, he paused. May I? She nodded again. He helped her to her feet. Her legs almost collapsed. His hand steadied her. Inside the bathroom, the tub was filled with warm, clear water. The scent of calming herbs lingered. She stared at it. Have you ever had a bath? He asked. She shook her head. He knelt. Dipped the towel. Reached for her hand. She flinched, hard. But he didn't recoil. He waited. She, trembling, placed her hand into his. He cleaned slowly. Gently. Her fingers were bruised, scratched. But the lilac hue of her skin shimmered beneath the grime. He cleaned both hands, then her arms. Her eyes brimmed with tears. Why? She whispered. Why what? Why are you doing this? He looked up. Because you deserve it. No one ever said that to me. You'll hear it again, he promised. He cleaned her cheek, revealing the soft skin beneath. There you are, he murmured. She blinked. When you're ready, he said, you can step into the water. I'll wait outside. Door stays open a crack. If you call, I come. You're not staying, she asked, voice small. No, he said. You deserve privacy. Before he stepped out, he turned back. You are not a thing. You are someone. The steam curled around her like a dream. She stared at the water, scared. Then, slowly, step by step, she dropped the blanket and stepped in. Warmth wrapped her like an embrace. She gasped, a mix of laugh and breath. For the first time, she felt alive. That night, she sat by the fire in clean clothes. Her hair braided loosely. Her skin free of grime. Roar handed her a bowl of soup. They ate in silence. Not awkward, gentle. You don't even know my name, she said softly. No, Roar replied. Do you? She shook her head. They called me, it. Or filthy. Never a name. He reached into his coat. Pulled out a folded cloth. On it, stitched with care, one word. Luma. She stared. What does it mean? An old earth word, he said. It means light. She looked away. I'm not light. You were in darkness, he said. But you're still here. That's enough. She touched the cloth. Luma, she whispered. Tears welled. It's beautiful. Then it's yours, Roar said. Can I keep it? It's yours. She held it to her chest. I finally feel like someone. Roar smiled. You are. That night, as the fire crackled and wind howled gently against the walls, she lay on the cot near the hearth. Not in fear. But in peace. Her last whisper before sleep. I am Luma. The days passed like soft waves on distant shores. Not fast, not slow. Just quiet. Luma no longer startled when she awoke. The ceiling above her was always the same metal, and the warm hum of the heater grounded her. She learned how to stretch her limbs without bracing for pain. She stood without looking over her shoulder. And Roar, always Roar, moved around her like he was afraid to break something precious. She had never known what it was to feel safe. Roar fixed broken fuses and recharged old tools during the day. Luma swept the floors, folded blankets, and once tried to cook porridge. It came out too thick. They ate it anyway. She burned herself once handling the kettle and hissed under her breath. You okay? Roar had said, already stepping toward her. She flinched, but then remembered. This place wasn't like the others. She nodded. It stings. Roar gently ran cool water over her hand and wrapped it in cloth. His fingers brushed hers. You're healing, he said. I drop the spoon. Then we wash another. That's all. That night, she sat closer to the fire than before. Roar told her stories sometimes. Not grand ones. Quiet tales. How his ship broke down outside Karsa Prime. How he once got conned into trading fuel for painted stones. How he met a star singer who sang for planets but couldn't boil tea. Luma listened, chin resting on her knees, wide eyes reflecting firelight. You've seen other worlds, she whispered. Some of them, Roar said. Were they kind? Some were just places. Some tried to be kind. And the rest? He didn't answer. She understood. She dared to ask her first question 5 days after the bath. Do you think I'm ugly? Roar looked up from the tangled coil he was fixing. No, he said plainly. Even with this, she gestured to the faint scars on her arms. He set the tool down. I see strength, he said. I see someone still standing. I'm not strong. You're still here. Aren't you? Her lip trembled. I didn't have a choice. Maybe not then. But you do now. She lowered her gaze. I don't know how to choose. You'll learn. One breath at a time. That evening, Roar came back from the market with fresh fruit and something wrapped in soft paper. What is it? She asked, eyes wide. You'll see. He handed it to her. She unwrapped it slowly. Inside was a simple brush. The handle was smooth wood. The bristles were clean and used. Her fingers hovered over it. For me. Yes. For your hair. If you want. She held it like it might disappear. No one's given me something just to keep. Now someone has. She turned away, blinking fast. That night, she brushed her hair by the fire. Long, slow strokes. Roar didn't say a word. He only watched from the corner of his eye, a faint smile at his lips. Roar never asked about her past. He didn't need to. She offered it in fragments. I was taken from a station, she said one morning, slicing fruit with careful fingers. Sold after 3 cycles. Roar didn't look away. They used to take bets on how long I'd last in the mines. But I was small. I fit into narrow places. So they kept me. Roar kept his voice steady. They used you. She nodded. I didn't think I was real for a long time. Just function. You're real now. She looked up. I want to believe that. The peace shattered on the 8th day. It started with a knock. Not a polite one. Hard. Calculated. Roar froze. Luma stood with a half-washed dish in her hand. He moved to the drawer. Pulled out an old plasma pistol. Loaded, barely. Stay back, he said. She obeyed. He opened the door a crack. 3 figures stood outside. All in matte black armor. No insignias. No badges. Just efficient menace. Roar Fen, the leader barked. This is private land. You are harboring an illegal asset. The second one held up a scanner. A grainy image. Luma, as she had been. Filthy, broken. We have claim, the leader continued. Registered to the Vexer Syndicate. I don't recognize slaver claims. Then you will be arrested as well. Inside, Luma's breath came in sharp gulps. She took 1 step back. Then another. Roar stepped fully outside and closed the door behind him. You have 5 seconds to leave. You going to shoot us, human? Roar didn't answer. Then a sharp crack rang from the woods. One of the men dropped his weapon. A second shot whined past the leader's helmet. Roar didn't even flinch. I called someone, he said. He doesn't miss twice. The men cursed. The leader sneered. This isn't over. They left. Inside, Luma stood frozen. Roar returned, calmly closed the door, and locked it. He turned to her. You didn't run, he said softly. I wanted to. But you didn't. You didn't give me up. Never. Her knees gave out. She caught the edge of the counter and breathed hard. They'll come again. Let them. She stared at him. Why do you protect me? Because you matter. She covered her mouth. Tears streamed down. I was nothing. You never were. They made you believe that. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat by the window, eyes scanning shadows. Roar brought tea. Said nothing. Sat beside her. They watched the trees sway under a pale moon. I can leave, she whispered. Run again. Maybe they won't follow. Roar looked at her. I didn't pull you from the dirt to see you vanish. But what if you get hurt? Because of me. Then I get hurt. She shook her head. You shouldn't say that. I should. And I will. As many times as it takes. Her hand found his. She didn't speak after that. Neither did he. They sat as the night breathed around them. Two souls stitched together not by words, but by all the ones never spoken. And by dawn, though the sky turned gray, Luma still hadn't moved. She wasn't running anymore. She had chosen to stay. The next few days settled into a rhythm, but the silence had changed. It wasn't fear anymore. It was a waiting kind of quiet. Luma no longer trembled when she heard footsteps, but her eyes darted to the window too often. Roar noticed. He never called her out for it. He simply adjusted his movements. Made sure doors clicked gently. Never surprised her. She tried to return the favor. Made stronger tea in the mornings, folded his worn coat when it slipped from the chair, even managed not to burn the porridge twice in a row. Roar thanked her every time. You don't have to keep saying that, she said one morning, brushing a speck of dust from his sleeve. I do, he said. You were never thanked before. It feels strange. Good strange or bad strange? She paused. Real strange. He smiled at that. Roar's wound from long ago, a faded burn mark beneath his collarbone, ached sometimes when the weather turned. He said it came from a starship explosion during a salvage run. Luma listened to the story like it was holy text. And you went back in. After the fire started. There was a cargo pod still locked. Figured maybe something worth saving. Was there? A child. She blinked. Did they live? They did. Why did you do it? You didn't even know them. Sometimes, he said, you don't need to know someone to know they deserve saving. She didn't say anything for a long time. That night she sat closer than ever before. They planted seeds the next day. Not because they expected much to grow, but because the act itself was enough. Roar dug small lines in the soft earth while Luma dropped the tiny seeds, one by one. These won't sprout without good sunlight, she said. Then we'll wait for a better season. You think that will come? Roar looked at her. I didn't think you would come. But here you are. She smiled, small and real. Maybe, she said, brushing her hands together. Later that night, they played music. Roar had an old box player, scratched, flickering. But it worked. It hummed to life after 2 taps and a whisper, spilling soft notes into the room. Luma froze at first, unsure what to do with sound that wasn't shouting or orders. It's music, he said. I know what music is, she replied, then added quietly, I just never heard any that didn't hurt. Roar nodded. Let her sit in it. Let her choose to stay in the sound. And she did. She sat near the fire, hands wrapped around a mug of broth, letting the melody wash over her. Her foot tapped once. Then twice. It's nice, she whispered. It's yours. All of it. This place. The quiet. The music. She looked at him. Can that be true? Even now. Even after what I was. You were never the wrong thing. You were just somewhere wrong. She blinked quickly, as if trying to hold back tears. They didn't hear the first sound. But they felt it. A vibration through the floorboards. Subtle. Roar turned his head, listening. Luma stiffened. What was that? Roar stood, walked quietly to the door. Nothing but wind. Stay inside, he said. He went out. Checked the perimeter. The forest beyond the house was too still. He returned quickly, locked the door. It might have been nothing. Luma nodded, but neither of them really believed that. At midnight, the explosion shattered the door. A wall of smoke and fire ripped through the room. Luma screamed and ducked. Roar was already moving, grabbing the plasma rifle from under the table. 3 figures poured in, black armor again, heavier than before. Guns drawn. Target confirmed. Secure the asset. Luma crawled behind the couch. Her ears rang. Roar fired once, twice. The first shot went wide. The second hit one in the leg. But there were too many. The second attacker slammed a rifle butt into Roar's ribs. He groaned, dropped to a knee. Luma did the unthinkable. She grabbed the hot kettle from the fireplace and hurled it at the man's face. He screamed, clawing at scalded skin. Roar took the chance, rolled and fired again. Another down. The last one hesitated, glancing at his fallen comrades. Then he ran. The silence afterward was brutal. Smoke curled in lazy spirals. Broken glass crunched beneath Luma's bare feet as she scrambled to Roar. He was slumped against the wall, bleeding. "Your side," she gasped, pressing a cloth against the red stain. "It's fine. You're bleeding." "I've bled worse." She shook her head. "You shouldn't have gotten hurt. Not for me. This wasn't for you. It was for us." Her hands trembled. "But you could have died." "I didn't. Because you stayed. Because you fought back." She looked down at her own hands, still warm from the kettle. "I didn't even think. I just moved. And you saved me." She pressed the cloth harder. "No more running," she whispered. "Then we hold this line together." They spent the night cleaning what they could. The door was gone. The table shattered. But the walls still stood. Roar's arm was bound, ribs wrapped. Luma dragged blankets to cover the gaps, blocked the broken window with a crate. "This isn't a home anymore," she said. "It's more of one than anywhere else. They'll come back. Maybe with more. Then we build stronger walls." She touched his hand. "You always talk like the ending hasn't been written." "Because it hasn't." Roar couldn't work for a few days. The injury slowed him. So Luma took over. She fetched supplies, bartered in the market, repaired wires with trembling fingers. Vendors eyed her strangely. Some whispered. But she held her head up. "You're different," one of them said. "I have a name," she replied, and walked away. Roar sat on the porch one evening, watching the wind stir the edge of the trees. Luma joined him, 2 cups of tea in hand. "How long do you think we have?" "I don't know. But every second we claim is one they can't take." She nodded. "I want to learn to shoot." Roar turned to her. "Really? I don't want to hide behind things anymore." He smiled, slowly. "Then tomorrow, we start." She stood in the clearing behind the house, holding the plasma pistol with both hands. Roar adjusted her stance. Feet wider. Shoulders back. "Breathe." She exhaled. Aimed. "Don't think of them," he said. "Just the target." She fired. Missed. Again. Missed. 3rd time. Closer. By the 5th shot, she clipped the edge of the mark. "You're learning." She nodded. Didn't smile. Not yet. But her eyes shone with something fierce. That night, she sat beside him on the porch again. "I used to dream of getting out. Of escaping. And now. Now I dream of making something no one can tear apart." Roar looked at her. "You already have." She leaned her head on his shoulder. He let her. And for the first time, the quiet between them felt like home. Not because of the walls or the fire or the stars overhead. But because of who was still standing beside him. And who had chosen to stay. The morning came with bruised skies and wind that rattled the patchwork walls. Roar sat on the porch with his coat draped over his shoulders, a mug of cooling tea in his hands. Inside, Luma moved quietly, tucking the blankets tighter into the window frame, then sweeping up the last shards of glass from the corner near the door. "You don't have to do all that," Roar said without looking at her. "I do," she replied. "I want to." She had already swept the floor twice, wiped down the kitchen counter, checked the supplies, and restacked the blankets. Her movements were steady, not frantic, but there was something heavy behind them, a quiet tension that made her pause often. "They haven't come back yet," Roar said after a moment. "But they will." He nodded. "Then we use the time we have. I want more of it." He turned to her, raising a brow. "I want more time," she said. "More days like the ones we had. With porridge and bad tea and music. I want to believe that can last." Roar stood slowly, his ribs stiff beneath the bandages. He walked over to her, placed his hands gently on her shoulders. "Then we fight for it." The next few days were spent rebuilding. Luma helped Roar replace the door with thick salvaged plasteel. They reinforced the windows with old hull panels from Roar's ship scrap. She gathered rocks to create a small barricade around the front path. She had never worked with tools before. Her hands blistered, and her arms ached, but she didn't stop. Not once. "It's ugly," she said, surveying their handiwork. "It's strong," Roar replied. "And it's ours." At night, they sat by the fire. Luma started reading from an old datapad Roar had salvaged long ago. Stories from other worlds. Myths. Poems. Fragments of lives that never belonged to them but somehow made the space feel fuller. She read slowly at first, tripping over words. But Roar never corrected her. "You're good at it," he said. "I don't know what half the words mean." "Doesn't matter. You make them sound beautiful." She blushed and hid her face behind the datapad. The garden began to sprout. Just tiny green heads poking through the dirt, defiant and delicate. Luma stared at them like they were miracles. "I didn't think they'd grow," she whispered. "Life always finds a way to rise. Even in ruined soil." She crouched beside the patch, running her fingers over the leaves. "Do you think I'm like that?" "No," Roar said. She looked up, startled. "You're stronger than weeds and braver than flowers. You didn't just grow. You built something inside the dark. And now look at you. Still standing. Still reaching." She smiled, but it trembled. "Sometimes I don't believe it. Sometimes I still feel like I'm going to wake up back in a cage." Roar knelt beside her. "You won't. Not while I'm here. Not while we fight together." On the 6th night, a message came. It wasn't a knock this time. It was a pulse. An encoded signal caught by Roar's old comms receiver. He scanned the frequency, listened to the static crackle, then stiffened. Luma noticed. "What is it?" "Vexor signal. Fragmented. But close. They found us. Maybe. Maybe they're searching nearby." Luma stood slowly, wrapping her arms around herself. "What do we do?" Roar turned off the receiver. "We prepare. And we hope." That evening, they hid most of their supplies beneath floor panels. Roar showed Luma the emergency exit behind the back wall, a narrow crawl tunnel that led to the trees. "If things go bad," he said, "you take this route. It comes out past the ridge. And you. I cover you." "No," she said, firmer than he expected. "We both go. Or we both stay. It's safer if—" "No, not this time. We don't split. Not again." Roar saw something in her eyes then. Not fear. Not even defiance. Something clearer. Something made of resolve. "All right," he said. Together. They slept little that night. Roar cleaned the rifle. Luma sharpened a rusted blade she found in one of the tool drawers. They sat back to back for a while, sharing warmth, sharing silence. "I don't want to lose this," she whispered. "Then we don't. Even if they take the house. Home isn't just walls. It's us," she said. He reached over, laced his fingers with hers. "Yes. It's us." The attack came at dawn. Shadows in the trees. The hum of engines just beyond the clearing. Roar and Luma stood side by side behind their makeshift barricade. Her hands trembled around the rifle, but she didn't step back. "You don't have to shoot," Roar said quietly. "I know. But I want to. I want them to know I'm not weak anymore." He nodded. The first flare exploded over the sky, casting blue light over the ground. Then the figures emerged, 5 this time. All in full body armor. Heavier gear. Serious weapons. "Roar Fen," the lead called. "Step aside. The asset must be returned." Roar raised his rifle. "She has a name. And she's not yours." Luma took a step forward. "My name is Luma," she shouted. "And I'm not going back." The soldiers didn't hesitate. One fired. The bolt struck the barricade, sending shards of rock flying. Roar returned fire. Luma dropped behind the cover and aimed. She pulled the trigger. And hit. Not a kill shot. But the soldier dropped, stunned. She stared at the rifle in her hands, chest heaving. Roar shouted something she didn't hear. More blasts. More smoke. She moved, fast, low, like he'd taught her. And she fought. Not like a soldier. Like someone who finally believed her life was worth defending. It didn't last long. Roar took a hit to the shoulder. Luma dragged him behind the remaining barrier. 3 enemies down. 2 retreated. The last one lingered too long. Roar fired and dropped him. Silence returned. Roar coughed. Luma ripped his shirt to assess the wound. "You're bleeding again." "So are you." She looked down. A cut across her thigh. She hadn't even felt it. "We won," she said, voice shaking. "We survived." She helped him to his feet. They limped back inside, through the smoke, through the broken door. She closed it gently behind them. And locked it. Later, after the bandages and the quiet had returned, Luma sat beside Roar on the floor. Her hair was tangled, her face smeared with ash. But she smiled. "I didn't run." "No," Roar said, his voice rough. "You didn't. You stood. You fought." She looked down at her hands. "I'm not afraid anymore. Not like before. You found your fire. I found my home. And I'll never let anyone take it again." Roar closed his eyes. Leaned his head back. "Then they never will." Luma leaned against him. Outside, the sky began to clear. Inside, the fire crackled. Their scars were many. Their strength was more. They had something now no army could break. A name, a bond. And the will to protect each other. Whatever came next. The sun rose over cracked earth and half-healed wounds. Inside the patched shelter, Luma stirred awake to the scent of tea and the low hum of wind outside. For a moment, she forgot the burns, the scars, the fear. She lay beneath the faded blanket, blinking into golden morning light, and she felt something she never thought she would: peace. Roar sat at the table, one arm in a sling, his other hand slowly turning the pages of the old datapad. He didn't look up when she stirred. He didn't need to. He felt her presence the way roots feel rain. "We have 1 apple left," he said softly. "I thought we could share it." Luma sat up. "I don't need much. You deserve more than scraps. Always did." She walked to the table and sat across from him. The apple, small and bruised, sat in the center like a treasure. Roar cut it in half with a shaking hand, then offered her the better slice. She didn't refuse. "The garden will give us more soon," she said. "So will time. If we let it." They spent the day outside, tending to what the firefight hadn't ruined. Some tools were melted beyond repair, but the water catch still worked. The solar panel on the roof flickered back to life after Roar replaced a line. Luma worked barefoot in the soil, her hands blackened, her face smeared with sun and sweat. Every time she planted a seed, she whispered something to it. A word. A promise. Sometimes just her name. Roar watched her from the porch. "You talk to the garden now?" "Yes." What do you say? I tell it to stay. To grow. To forgive the fire. He nodded. Wise words. They're yours. I just remember them. That night, Roar couldn't sleep. His arm throbbed. The pain wasn't what kept him awake, though. It was the quiet. Not the bad kind. The kind filled with wondering. He found Luma standing by the window, the moonlight painting her skin silver. Her hair was still damp from washing. Her eyes were focused on the stars. Couldn't sleep, he asked. I don't want to miss anything. There's nothing out there tonight. Yes, there is. What do you see? Possibility. Roar walked over slowly, standing beside her. Their shoulders brushed. She didn't flinch. I used to think stars were cold, she said. Distant. Cruel. Now they feel like witnesses. Witnesses to what? This. Us. Everything we survived. Roar looked at her then, really looked. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was alive. You could leave, he said. Now. If you wanted. She turned to him. Why would I do that? You're free now. You could go anywhere. I already made my choice. And I'm not leaving you. Not unless you ask me to. He stepped closer. Never. She took his good hand in hers. Then we stay. Together. Word of the failed retrieval must have spread. Days passed. Then weeks. No new threats came. No soldiers. No signals. Just birds nesting in the trees and flowers trying to bloom despite the smoke scars in the soil. Luma and Roar began walking farther from the shelter. Not to flee, but to explore. They discovered a stream to the east. A collapsed supply outpost to the north. They gathered anything useful and returned with arms full of old wire, tins of dried grain, and one battered book of poetry. I used to think poetry was for fools, Roar said, flipping through it. Then what are we? He looked up. Fools in love, maybe. She laughed. Soft, bright. One afternoon, Luma found Roar leaning against the garden fence, his eyes closed, his face relaxed. You sleeping upright now? No, he muttered. Just listening. To what? To silence. To peace. She stepped closer. To me. He opened his eyes. Always to you. They built a second room beside the original one. It was barely larger than a closet, but it was hers. Not because she needed her own space, but because she wanted to fill something with her own breath. She painted the inside walls with crushed berries and charcoal. Stars. Vines. Handprints. Fragments of herself. I never had a room, she told Roar as she worked. Not one I could decorate. Not one I was allowed to belong in. This one's yours. Always. She turned. Will you ever come in? If you ask. I'm asking. Now. He stepped in. She stepped into his arms. They kissed for the first time that night. Not because they were swept away by heat or fear or some moment of impulsive pain. But because they were finally ready. Her lips were soft and unsure. His were steady. Neither of them pulled away. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Seasons shifted. The nights grew cooler. The trees bloomed once more. The garden thrived. Their lives settled into something that resembled peace. Luma no longer looked over her shoulder. She laughed more often. She danced once, barefoot in the rain, while Roar stood on the porch pretending not to smile. She read out loud every night now. New stories. Old poems. Notes she scribbled in the margins of salvaged books. Roar listened. Even when his eyes closed. Even when the fire burned low. One morning, a courier drone landed outside the house. Roar stood still. Luma stepped forward. It might be from the city, she said. Roar nodded. Inside the compartment was a sealed letter. Luma opened it slowly. She read it once. Then again. What is it? Roar asked. The Vexer Syndicate is gone, she said. The council outlawed their operations. They raided their last stronghold. The names, mine isn't on their lists anymore. Roar stepped closer. You're not property to anyone. Not even on paper. Luma folded the letter. Her hands were shaking. It's over. Yes. It is. She looked at him, stunned. I never thought I'd see the end of that part of my life. Now you can begin something new. She stared down at her hands. I don't know what to build. I don't know how to start. Roar gently took her hand. You already have. Every morning you woke up. Every step you took here. Every word you spoke to the plants and to me. You started building the moment you believed you deserved to. She exhaled. Deep and free. Then I'll keep building. At sunset, they stood side by side in the doorway, watching the stars return. Do you still think they're witnesses? Roar asked. Yes. But now, I think they cheer for us, too. Roar chuckled. Maybe they do. I want to do something, Luma said. What? She reached into her pocket, pulled out the old cloth scrap he'd once given her with her name stitched into it. Can we make a sign? To hang over the door. A nameplate. Yes. For our home. What will it say? She paused. Then smiled. Sanctuary. Roar nodded. Sanctuary it is. That night, beneath a sky full of stars and a fire that crackled gently in the hearth, they held each other on the porch steps. Neither ran. Neither feared. They had found more than safety. They had found a life. A name. A future. And as they sat together, their fingers entwined and hearts quiet but strong, the world at last felt like it had space for them. Not as fugitives. Not as broken. But as people who had chosen to stay. As people who had chosen each other. And for the first time, the stars weren't watching a tragedy. They were watching a beginning.